All right, Coach, one last time. Sorry, is it all right if I record the interview?
Yeah, it's fine. You're good.
John?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, perfect. Before we start the interview, we have a quick sponsorship. What's your warrior? Become it in the Army. Whether you want to cure diseases or develop technology the world doesn't know exists, the Army is where all of that can happen. Find out more by contacting your local Army recruiter and follow them on social media at US Army Baltimore. Ask yourself, what's your warrior? And go to goarmy.com/Baltimore to find out. All right, once again, everyone, this is Alex Peters from County Sports Zone. I'm joined with John, our sports journalist intern, and we have Coach Matt Miller. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing very well, thank you.
Now, Coach, can you tell everybody watching a little bit about yourself and where you are currently coaching?
Sure, I'm the head football coach at Winters Mill High School in Westminster, Maryland. This coming season will be my 8th year as head coach there. Overall, this is my 18th year at the school. I was the defensive coordinator there for the previous 10 years. It's the only place I've ever coached or worked. Prior to that, I played football at Western Maryland College. It's now McDaniel. And I was fortunate enough to be part of some pretty good teams there. We played in the national playoffs. Originally, I'm from Hummelstown, Pennsylvania, which is close to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I went to school there called Lower Dauphin High School. Lower Dauphin has a tradition of pretty good sports. It's a great sports area, the Mid-Penn area. But, you know, college brought me to Westminster, and I never left.
That's awesome. It must be nice to be at the same high school for the entirety of your coaching career.
Yeah, it's weird how it works out. You know, actually, Winters Mill is a brand new high school. I started working there the second year it was open. So to have been there since the beginning and see all the firsts, you know, way back when, and then now a lot of guys on my staff are alum. You know, guys I coached those first couple of years, and now they've come back to help, and that's a big deal because I always tell people nobody's dad went to Winters Mill. You know, so we don't have that necessarily that tradition like some places. So having alumni back and having them involved, it's important to endear ourselves to the alumni community.
Yeah, absolutely. And quick little side note, my one of the coaches we just interviewed was one of my teammates at college, and he went to E-Town High School in PA.
Oh, Elizabethtown, yeah.
All right, Coach. So I gave you the little rundown beforehand, and we've asked every coach this when they've come on to interview with us. So we just kind of want to get your thoughts on the pandemic that's currently going on, and we're curious if you've been able to keep in contact and keep your players motivated during the time.
Yeah, I tell you, right now, I don't envy anybody who's in a decision-making process or position. No matter what a person does, they're going to be wrong. You know I get frustrated because I want to get back out there. But, you know, it's tough. It's tough right now. You know, I don't care where your thoughts might lie. There's no playbook for this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to use a sports vernacular, there's very limited precedent for what's going on. I'm able to reach out with my kids. We have in Maryland right now, we have some restrictions about how we can contact our players.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily contact them, but we can't. I see stuff on social media all the time. We are not allowed to conduct like online instruction. Like this time of the year, we'd normally be in 7-on-7s doing like our base stuff.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to go over any of that, you know, online. We're not allowed to lead online workouts. Now I can post resources to, we have a Microsoft Teams page. I can post resources for the kids to access on their own, but there can't be any live instruction. And that's mildly frustrating. I don't know what the competitive advantage is right now, given that it's a pandemic. You know, I don't feel like it's overkill. You know, we have an opportunity to impact our players in a positive way, and it's that part's frustrating. I actually had a meeting with my seniors last night just to talk about possible scenarios for things, and it was nice because a lot of them I haven't seen in person. You know, gosh, since March 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to see them. You know, when you're on a conference call with 18 senior boys, I had to mute them a bunch of times just to get them to shut up and listen to what I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nice. You don't realize how much you miss it really till you're away from them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems, I agree with you. It seems odd that if there was ever a time where you would maybe loosen up on the quote unquote rules or restrictions based on dates and times, now would be, ideally is the wrong word, but now would be the time to do so. So with that being said, and I have a super unfair question. I know it's
Okay.
unfair. Okay. I preface it by saying that.
I'm ready.
I also want to let you know that the reason we're asking this question is because our thought is maybe someone has an idea that maybe the higher ups haven't thought of or haven't seen, and they see this video or they see this idea and they think maybe we want to implement that. So with that being said,
Okay.
if we put you in charge of handling coming back to, whether it's coming back to school or starting back up football activities, what are some of the things, maybe some of the points that you would want to make sure that happen?
Well, first off, if the higher ups are watching this, I hope they know that I really admire them and I look to them for inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one thing I would do, it seems like, and I don't want to be an armchair scientist, everyone has an opinion about this. You can't get away from it, but it seems pretty consistent wherever you hear that there's this inevitable second wave coming in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, what if we started the season earlier? It seems right now we're kind of in a valley with cases and outbreaks, whatever that means. I texted my athletic director, and this is to piggyback off of you. It's unfair to her because she doesn't have the authority to do this. But right now there's a lot of spitballing ideas, about like, what if we started in like late July, get the season in by the end of October, and then if there's a second wave, we can just be done with it. We get our season in. Then if you have to delay, let's say they delay through November, December, because we have another peak, then you get right back into your winter sports, and maybe you really don't lose a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my thought. Other than that, here in Maryland, like my county's Carroll County, we're a little bit more rural.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about just playing a county schedule, that we don't go over to Baltimore County or Montgomery or Frederick. They're some of the harder hit counties.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my outside the box idea would be starting the season mid to late July, get it done, and then before that second wave comes, we have our season in. That would be my real like outside the box idea. Because everything, I know the powers that be, all kidding aside, they want our kids out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anybody sitting around going, "Oh, this is a great year for us just to have off." I mean, I know they're working to have people to get us back out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, I don't know if that's even doable. I don't know what would need to happen in that case. However, I will say that's the first time we've heard that. John's been with me on a few different interviews in terms of football coaches. And that's the first time we've heard about starting early. With that being said, how much time do you think you would need to get your players ready to start in, let's just say, I don't know, maybe July 15th?
With the big thing would be getting them back into physical shape.
Mm-hmm.
I can text them and call them and tweet at them and send Facebook messages and send them threatening letters to stay in shape all I want. The big thing would be getting them into like football shape.
Mm-hmm.
The group we have coming back this year, and I don't want to put a target on my back. I think we have a decent group. They're a great group of kids, from the freshmen to the seniors. We really have a great group coming back. I would feel very comfortable being able to line up and run our stuff almost on day one, because we've had a lot of these kids up with us for 2 and 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing would just be getting them back in football shape. They gave us the green light and said July 15th. I guess 2 weeks, week and a half. Mm-hmm. It would really just depend on, you take for granted how long training camp is, but we've never been in a situation where we could potentially lose training camp. Sometimes those are the dog days. Mm-hmm. But now it's like I'd hate to rush through training camp and all of a sudden we're ripping in the season and we haven't had a chance to get them into shape. You won't have maybe any of those preseason injuries that always seem to derail your season. But week and a half, 2 weeks, and we could go. The group that I have, I feel confident that we could be ready to play. I'm not saying that we're going to light the world on fire. I love our group. They're great guys. I don't know how good everybody else is. Mm-hmm. But we have a group that can be ready to go pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And yeah, I was just curious in terms, I'm a baseball guy through and through. So I didn't play football in high school. Actually, I've never played like organized football. So, mm-hmm. The old cliches, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth. Right. So
yeah,
football, I think in particular is, you need to feel that getting hit in order to really feel like you're back.
Mm-hmm.
John, do you have
Yeah.
any?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were okay.
No. Coach, go ahead.
Oh no, I mean, I agree. It's like it's just like dealing with an injury, or you lose somebody, and all of a sudden, like you think you're one thing, and you lose a player or two, and all of a sudden you become something else.
Mm-hmm.
Weather plays into it. It seems like more and more now. It used to be you played football in anything.
Mm-hmm.
You get pushed back dates, reschedulings. Now the heat is a big deal. When we were in schools, like you just play no matter what. So yeah, I mean, short of it is to interrupt you. I agree with you 100%.
Mm-hmm. John, do you have anything?
Yeah, coach, with your players, have you noticed any of them stepping up, being leaders, motivating these guys to make sure that they're working out, to make sure that they know it's going to be okay, and we keep hoping we should get our football season. You notice that, or you notice guys stepping up and being leaders?
Yeah, like our senior class is very strong this year. Like last night was the first time I had an organized meeting with all of them at one time. And you're always a little leery because sometimes kids are bad about texting you back or things like that. And I set the date and boom, it was like 18 or 20 of them were online right away. And that was reassuring. And I know a lot of them have been getting together on their own. They've asked me things, and I tell them, like, guys, I can't. One, I don't want to be in a position where I would encourage them to do something and they'd get sick, however unlikely the chances are of that. Because they've reached out to me about things. I'm like, guys, you got to do this on your own. But I know a lot of our seniors have been getting together with some of the kids at our high school, throwing the football around, doing things. I mean, they've been active. So as much as I can monitor that stuff, it's not like I see them every day. In fact, I haven't seen any of them in a long time, but I know just with the text messages and the phone calls that they've been doing stuff. I've been pleased. Every time I've reached out to them with questions or something, they get back to me. I mean, they're hungry. My guys are hungry right now.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Coach. So now that we got that out of the way, we can go more sports specific stuff, which that's what excites me, honestly.
Sure.
So what type of coach are you? Meaning, what are some of your philosophies and what are some things that you tend to preach to your players?
I believe in character above all else. I look at I tell our coaches and our players that our team is an extension of the classroom. It's not exactly the same. I've coached a lot of sports since I've been involved with coaching. Before I was head football, I was assistant football, but I was also assistant wrestling, and I even coached tennis for a couple of years. And I coached tennis because it got me to my job teaching. The first tennis match I ever went to was the first one I ever coached because I never played, but it got me the job.
There you go.
But I've had a chance to work with a lot of coaches, and I remember a coach told me one time in another sport, he said, and I'll paraphrase this because he would use a little bit more vulgar language. He would tell the kids, you can be a jerk and you can be a great athlete, but one day you're not going to be a great athlete. And what's going to be left? The other piece. And I really believe that. I want our kids to be the best that they can be. They don't got to be angels. I don't expect them coming to practice every day, holding hands, singing Kumbaya. Mm-hmm. But I want them to represent themselves, their family, their school with a lot of class. In today's day and age, I see a lot of things with, kids announce their decisions and they pick schools and they transfer. And I think one thing that's getting lost, and I know kids have to look out for themselves, but it's okay to be part of something bigger than you. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be part of something where you might not get out of it what the group gets out of it, but it helps the greater good. I really do believe that you commit to a school, especially when things are tough. We struggled for a couple years and kids kept coming back. And I used to tell our kids, I'm like, look, if you can play football at Winters Mill, you are a tough person because you go out there. We haven't had the success in the field that other teams have had. You face your community, you face your friends, and you keep your head held high. And lesser people would walk away from that. Lesser people want to criticize, but that's something you take pride in, that you can endure that, you persevere. Now we're to the point where we're starting to turn the corner, and you see that. Our kids are tough, so toughness, character, those are the things that are important to me. I mean, believe me, I want to win. This isn't football club for me.
Yeah.
There's a scoreboard out the field for a reason, but I got to be able to look myself in the mirror before I go to bed at night and know that I did the best by these kids who's you forget about it, but our parents, they send us their very best. When they send their son or even daughter sometime to play football for us, we are getting their very best. And that is a big responsibility to me. So I try to be the best version of myself for them to help them, learn to work towards their goals. So very character driven. I try to be an energetic guy. I think energy is infectious. I tell our coaches we'll never have a bad practice if we can help it, because that energy comes from us. Now, some days it's tough. Some days you're out there, we're all fighting the walls. But, I try to be a high energy guy, a high character guy. And one thing I've learned since I've been a head coach is I've opened myself up more to the kids. I remember when I first started as a younger head coach, it was like, I don't say I had to be Vince Lombardi, but it was, I had to have that separation. I had to have, like, I'm the head coach and this is how I conduct myself. And I've learned it's okay to open up to them. Like, they need to know that you care about them. I tell them, like, I'm not your friend, but I love you to death and I'll do anything for you. And that's like, kids can sense that that's genuine. They know if you're full of it or not. They can pick up. And really, if you get kids buying into something and believing, you can get them to do anything. You really can. It's just like, I'm a firm believer that our best times are yet to come. Our success is coming on the field. But the kids we've turned out, they're great kids. And I say young men now, because a lot of them have come back and they wanted to help us. They want to be in, we've had players who've been on like 1 in 9 teams, and then they come back and like, coach, it was the best time. And that's, to me, that's a big deal. I know we've had players who've gone on and it's like, oh, Coach Miller's an idiot. He doesn't know anything. And it's like, well, I'm sorry that was your experience. But I try to be high character, high energy, hardworking. That's who I try to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you brought up a couple important facets of the game. So, we're talking about kids 14 to 18 years old, really highly impressionable student athletes. So, and the second thing is trust. So if players are able to trust their coaches, and not only that, but you're preaching good character, then it's like you said, it's leading these boys to become young men and be excellent off the field in real life. I think the biggest thing that often is forgotten in the high school sports realm is that not every student athlete comes from the same type of household. So like sports in general offer them an escape of their own reality. And when you have a coach that you can really trust and really know that he or she has your back, that's one of the best things in the world.
Yeah, I agree. It's, I think about my positive experiences with the coaches I was involved with, and I just endeavor to emulate them. I don't know if I could ever be the guys I played for, but I'm always striving to emulate them, because I had great experiences, with my sports growing up.
No, I feel the same way. I tend to dictate the conversation in front of my intern. So, John, do you have anything before I ask my next question?
Coach, you said you were the defensive coordinator before you were the head coach, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about that transition from coaching one part of the game to basically coaching all parts of the game, and if you had any difficulty starting off with that?
No, that's a great question. When I got hired right out of college at Winters Mill High School, and when we started, we didn't even have seniors. Forget like winning games. A lot of it was like survival. We would get off the bus and hope our kids would live through 48 minutes of football. I worked for the same head coach, great friend of mine, Ken Johnson, nicknamed Speedy. He's in the Maryland Football Hall of Fame, one of my all-time favorites. And I only ever worked for him. So I learned how he did things. I remember when I got hired, it became very important for me to reach out to other head coaches to see how they organized their programs, because I'd only been exposed to what we did at Winters Mill. And I had my memories from college and high school. So I reached out to every coach that I could possibly talk to. And I said, how do you organize things in your program? Because I feel like that's the foundation of your house you're building. Before we get to the X's and the O's, you got to know who you are. You have to know what your program's about. You have to know how you're going to delineate responsibility. And I went to a lot of coaches. And I mean, I know like some of the guys I had a chance to speak to. One of my man who was very near and dear to me was Coach Al Thomas. In Maryland, he's like the end all be all in terms of high school coaches. He passed away a few years ago. He wrote me a really nice letter of recommendation. I played for him at Western Maryland. I got to meet with him a bunch of times, and he shared a lot of things with me. I got to go up at Central Dauphin High School. I spoke with Coach Glenn McNamee one time. I don't even know if Coach McNamee would remember me, but I got a chance to speak with him. I got introduced to him through a mutual coaching contact. Coach Rob Clock at Lower Dauphin High School. I got to meet with him and talk. That's my alma mater. There's a man named Vince Pantalone, who I played football for at Lower Dauphin, who was the defensive coordinator at Lebanon Valley. I went and I spoke with him. So I try to talk to every coach possible about how do you organize your program. And I mean everything. How do you organize off-season stuff? How do you interact with parents? What do you do about fundraising? What are your policies on discipline? Because again, I love Speedy to death, the man I worked for at Winters Mill, but I needed to be exposed. You have to have variety. That's what we build on. So that was a great question. I went that first year, I went and talked to every head coach that I could possibly talk to just to see how they did things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you take bits and pieces from everyone and see what works for you. And if you don't like it, throw it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's trial and error.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of now we're going to get down to a little bit of practice.
Okay.
So can you walk us through maybe what are some of your favorite drills or things to do at practice?
The best thing we ever did was we got rid of stretch lines. That's the best thing we've ever done. Oh, and the second best thing we ever did, and this is going to sound really awful when I first tell you this, we got rid of water breaks. Okay, now let me just explain these two things. I listened to a coach one time, I think he was from Florida, and he goes, how many of you do stretch lines in the beginning? Maybe you take like 15 minutes, they stretch out, right? They come out from after school. And it was always aggravating for me because the kids would just come out, and, they're decompressing from being in the classroom all day. They'd spend the 15 minutes or 20 minutes stretching or however long it would take sometimes, and they'd just be talking about whatever, and it wasn't football related, and I hated it. Because I'd be standing in the middle of the stretch lines going, hey, let's focus. Why are we out here? And again, they're teenagers. I get it. He said, look, these kids are in school all day. They're walking from class to class. Some of them have PE. They're going up and down steps. Why are you stretching them out? Stretch them out at the end of practice when they're tired. That we think that factors into limiting injuries more. So we got rid of stretch lines. We come out, we do what's called pre-practice. We have our EDDs, or everyday drills. We do, instead of stretch lines, quarterbacks get loose throwing to each other, receivers catch passes, running backs will do some cuts, linemen will be in the chutes. If it's a defensive day, our DBs are doing, their footwork drills. Linebackers are taking their drops and their steps. We do that for 10 minutes. We come together, we organize. We do what are called Falcon Jacks. That's like how we start practice. They get the stretch lines. They do that for a minute, and then we roll. And then, now I don't know how this is going to work now in the age of COVID, but we invested in about, 200 water bottles. And I have a bunch of managers, and I tell the managers, I want 6 to 12 water bottles constantly filled at every single position group at all times. It's not, with football practice, there is standing around. There's a lot of inherent standing around. You can't help it. It's the same with every sport. Kids are waiting in line. We're going over something. A kid's not getting a rep. I tell the kids, it is your responsibility to get a drink while we are practicing. And we get on that field and we roll. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes and we don't stop. Now if we have to explain something or go over something, we do it. But our practices are high energy. They're efficient. Those two things are probably things that I've been most pleased with that really bared fruit, is limiting stretch lines. Now, in the preseason, we will stretch, especially early in the morning. For any of you safety experts out there, I don't want you to think I'm negligent. And if we have a heat index or a heat warning, we adhere to those rules. But under normal circumstances, we rip. And then by the end of practice, I tell the kids, if you're waiting until the end of practice to run a couple sprints because that's what you think conditioning is, you're missing the mark. You better be tired by the end of practice. And if you're not, then I'll dial it up a little bit. And you can ask our kids. I think early on in the season, we're in great shape. Early on, I feel like that shows in some of our games that we're well conditioned because we don't stop. Whether it's the linemen, the receivers, the kick, whatever, we're going. So those are two things about practice that I like, that are kind of global, that I really like, that it pertains to everybody.
Yeah, and I think that when you said you got rid of water breaks, I didn't gasp. I knew exactly where I thought you were going.
Sure. Because you send the kids to the table, you're in the flow, and then you say, hey, go get a water break. Then they stop, and you come back, and really a 5-minute water break's really like a 10-minute water break, because it's 2 minutes to get them there, 5 minutes, and when they come back, it takes them a couple of minutes to get back in the frame of mind. So heck with that. Now when we go back to play, I can't imagine sharing water bottles is going to be the same as it once was. So I'm going to try and, I don't know, maybe we'll just have a never-ending sprinkler just shooting up from the ground. Kids can run through. I don't know. I mean, that's really going to put a crimp in my practice game.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I also have the eliminating pre-practice stretching is something that I find really interesting, because it's something, like I said, I'm a baseball guy. So baseball throughout high school, college, and I even had the opportunity to play professionally last year. So that's the first thing you do when you get to the field.
Sure.
Like for the way that you're explaining it, I think that it has incredible benefits, because I definitely agree with you, especially at the high school level. These kids are active all day, although they're in high school for 8 hours. I'm a Hartford County guy. I went to high school at Patterson Mill, so we had 80-minute
Huskies.
Yes, sir. So
we used to play them.
Oh, really? I graduated.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. We had 2 games with them, just 2 years in a row.
Okay, I graduated in 14.
Okay, we played them in fall of 2015 and fall of 2016 for Coach.
Okay.
To play for Coach Lurs.
No, when I was there, it was Coach Mason.
Okay.
I think that I think 2015 was Coach Lur's first year there.
Gotcha. Okay.
But no, I really I'm interested to, and I think on my own. I think I'm going to do some more research on the elimination of stretching lines, because I think that I agree with you. I think that you're starting practice quicker in terms of obviously like time frame, but also like motivation and energy wise, which I think is, especially in football, like you're saying, the kids are able to, where you got that 10 minutes where you're working on things where you need and what you feel mentally is going to get you ready to practice. And then for those 2 hours and 15 minutes, you're hauling.
Yeah, and again, here's the biggest thing with the way we do things, and our coaches had to learn this. A lot of times, I mean, most places, and I don't knock anybody who does it differently. It's just how I like to do it. It's the transitional periods for coaches. Like, our coaches have to be on their game when we go from period to period. So they want something set up. They almost have to have it ready. It is – the first year we did it was a little bit of adjustment because, some of our older coaches, they see this, they don't get around as well as like I do, even though I'm not that much younger than they are. But you really have to be on your game from a preparation standpoint. I don't know how it would translate to other sports, like being a former baseball player also. I don't know how that would translate to other sports. I just know for us, you would spend 10 minutes stretching, and then you'd have 10 minutes of like warming up your quarterbacks. And it's like, come on, that's 20 minutes of practice.
Yeah.
And a lot of times our kids now, as we get into the season, they know what to do. I mean, I'll put on the board, this is what time it starts. And if we're not out, like, we try to get out as quickly as we can. Our older kids, they'll just get things going. They know what the drills are. Like, our kids just know what to do, and that's a testament to the planning our coaches do and the expectations set by them. But it's that way your individual time could be instruction if you need to. And none of the periods run any longer than like 12 minutes. Like, the worst thing in the world is a team period that runs 45 minutes and you have a third or half of the team standing around. And you're like, oh my God, this is insanity. We got to go. You got to be muscle memory. It got to be repetitions, and we got to turn the heat up on them. We're yelling at them. We're getting in their business. We got to, that's part of preparing them for a game. Because Friday night lights, man, there's nothing like it. You get out under there, you got to expect the unexpected.
Absolutely. So now I have my favorite question that I like to ask coaches.
Okay.
I'm going to make you a mad scientist. Okay. I'm putting you in the lab, and I want you to create your ideal type of player. So what this means is this can be physical attributes. This can be mental characteristics. And you can, if you want, you can even dictate a position.
I'll tell you I want a kid that got that like heart of a junkyard dog, the underdog, the scrapper.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of wrestlers on our football team, and I said on the beginning of the year this year, I said, how many of you have ever been thrown to your back in a wrestling match? A bunch of them raise their hands. And I said, when you get thrown to your back, you just give up? They're like, no, you fight off your back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of kid I want. Like, okay, don't care how good you are. You don't care how tough you are. We will throw down with you. We will fight in a phone booth if we have to. We are ready. To the younger kids, they used to have phone booths. I don't know if anyone listens to this. There used to be phone booths on the street. But that's the kind of kid I want. And this year, this group is we really started this past year. We saw this with our kids. Oh my gosh, they fought and they fought and they fought. That's the kind the kid's heart is really, that's what I would start with. Mm-hmm. In a perfect world, I have all kids who are like 6'7", 300 pounds that run 4.40s, and we wouldn't even practice. We would just show up and be like, here we are. You don't even need jobs. We're just going to take your money. I want a kid with a big heart who will never quit, no matter what. That they are like the pebble in your shoe. They just will not go away. That they just will not quit. I love kids that can tackle, that are good tacklers. And I don't mean like every time they hit somebody that their helmet pops off and the other kid's head explodes. I like kids who wrap them up, get them to the ground. A kid who can just initiate contact and they get them down. Because tackling is a tough thing now with like teaching it, safety. It's tough to teach tackling, and kids who tackle well. I remember when I played for Coach Thomas at the college, he used to always say, we want to be the best tackling team in America. Mm-hmm. And that always stuck with me. And I know for a lot of years we might not have even been early on. We might not have been the best tackling team in our school, but we try to work on tackling. I love it when linemen finish. I love seeing linemen downfield. When they're running, they're finishing blocks. I like that edge, that attitude. And that doesn't take a size. That's just working on finishing. Mm-hmm. I love receivers who block. I love quarterbacks who carry out the fakes. Those are the kinds of things I look for, because those are all selfless acts. Those are all acts of like want to, so that's just someone who is perpetually the underdog, the person you're going to count out. That's who we'll take. Mm-hmm. Nowadays I see people, it's like things get tough and they want to transfer schools because no matter how they spin it, they don't like losing. I don't care what it is. Like, I don't like losing. I'm going to this school. All right. I don't want to go to that good school. I want to beat them. Mm-hmm. It's like, you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. Those are the kids I want. Like, we're going to step up, and you can knock us down 99 times. But we're going to get up 100 times. Scoreboard be damned. That's what I look for.
I love it.
So do I. Moving from his favorite to my favorite, what are some of the most important positions in the game of football? I know it's a team sport, but just what are some positions that you think you need good players at, or else you're not going to have a good team?
I remember when I first started coaching, my dad was a former coach. He passed away this past winter. This will be the first season I haven't had him. We are a smaller school, and he used to tell me, Matthew, you got a big bullet, fire it off every freaking chance you get. In our school, if we get one or two kids that's not necessarily a position, but someone who can make a play with a ball in their hand, you got to have someone who's scary. In some way, shape, or form, you got to have somebody that the other team looks at and goes, ooh, how are we going to plan for that kid? And that in some years for us, it's been a quarterback. Some years it's been a receiver. Some years it's been a running back. Some years it's been a defensive lineman. So in terms of like what's the most important position, you got to have somebody who's scary. Someone that's, when the other team looks at you, they go, okay, we got to stop this kid. And the more guys you have like that, the more success you're going to have. You know, that's a fact. Like, I can do everything I can to develop these kids. I can do everything I can to try and help them get better. But at some point, they got to be playmakers. You know, you have to have a kid who's a playmaker, that somehow that kid, you know, when you need that extra yard or that pass completion or that tackle, you need someone who's going to be the playmaker. And for us being at a smaller school, you know, that could change year by year. You know, I know the NFL guys, they'll talk about the quarterback being the most important position. I think with the NFL's game, if you don't have good defensive backs, you know, someone who can just be a glove on a receiver, because receivers can get away with anything in the NFL. You don't have good defensive backs and a pass rush, you're at a disadvantage. For us, it's, do you have somebody that's scary? And that's the most important guy. And then probably close to that, you gotta have good captains. You know, you have to have this. Captains just can't be someone who's standing at the front of the line. Like, you got to have someone who is an extension of you in that locker room. And finding that and cultivating that leadership, to me, you know, just because our DNA changes year to year. You know, some years we've had big linemen and maybe slower skill kids, and some years we're putting slow wide receivers on the line and making them guards because we don't have any linemen. You know, so it's tough to say, you know, what specific position, but I'd say for high school, you got to have somebody who's scary in some capacity, someone who can pressure an offense or a defense for the other team.
I think that's why they have the classification as athlete in terms of when we're looking at recruiting. I mean, you want it.
You're right. You're
You're
absolutely right about that. Guys that could be playmakers anywhere on the field.
Yeah,
you'll see more of that as the game evolves. You're going to see more and more of this just multi-purpose type player, I think, especially at the high school level. I mean, you know, necessity for us breeds creativity. You know, we try to manufacture things however we can, but you need the kids that can fill it. And that's where a lot of times as coaches, and I've been on the short end of this, we get a lot of credit for things and we take a lot of blame for things that are probably unjust both ways. It's amazing how good of a coach you are when you just have stud athletes. And a lot of times people don't want to hear that. But if talent didn't matter, why is Alabama's recruiting budget so big? Why is Clemson's recruiting budget so big? You know, if Nick Saban was such a great coach, I would have played for him. You know, but like, talent matters. And it's what you do with that talent. You know, you got to have some of that. Now, it doesn't mean you just line up and let the really good fast kid run around with the football. But at some point, kid has to be a playmaker.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Coach, I only have one more question for you.
Okay.
Before I ask it, I just want to give you my condolences. I'm sorry for your loss. It's tough no matter how old.
Oh, thank you.
So hopefully we get that first season under your belt.
I think about it often. I mean, he was a big influence, so I appreciate the condolences. Thank you.
So with that being said, the last question I have, and I think it's important. So how have you been able to use quarantine to improve yourself?
Well, coincidentally, right before quarantine, my wife bought an Echelon bicycle, which is like a knockoff Peloton. And I get on that damn thing every day and I hate it. But I got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's my exercise. I try to read a lot. I try to read quality stuff. Like, this is going to sound, I don't sound like overly academic here, but I'm working on, I read it a long time ago, but I'm working on, there's a book, People's History of the United States, you know, by a man named Howard Zinn. It gives a different perspective on history. Book was made famous with Good Will Hunting. Matt Damon's character talks about it. So I try to read. I actually bought a smoker, a big green egg. Again, coincidentally, right before this started. So, like, I spent probably 5 days out of 7 slow cooking meat on my smoker because I have time. I'm at home.
Yeah.
Stuff that would normally be reserved for a Saturday. You know, we're having pulled pork one night. I did a brisket yesterday. I might make ribs this weekend. You know, so with the egg, I got to get on the bike because, I'll go from being a receiver to a tackle pretty quickly.
I like that. So I was a history minor in college. So I don't think that's too academic. I think that I'm a big proponent of understanding history because I believe history repeats itself. So the more we know about the past, the better we're suited for our future. So
absolutely,
I don't think that's too academic. I think that's interesting. I don't have any more questions. John, do you have anything?
No.
Coach, I want to first and foremost thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have any questions for us?
No, not at all. Like I said, I told you before we started, it's nice to have an adult conversation during the day. My days are usually dominated by Dino Dana and Paw Patrol, or just my kids wanting. I don't know what it is now with younger kids. They want to watch YouTube videos of kids playing with toys. Like, you have toys, but my son loves Hot Wheels and he wants to watch kids playing with Hot Wheels while I'm tripping over his cars. So it's nice. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to have an adult conversation during the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you're hopping on the knockoff Peloton. Get away from the YouTube videos of other kids playing with toys. And
gladly.
Coach, thank you so much again. And hopefully we'll see Winters Mill playing at least on time, at least at some point this fall.
Yeah, let's hope.
All right, Coach. Thank you one more time, and take care.
Thank you.